Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. And today I want to talk to you guys about Kathleen Kennedy. Or more specifically, we're going to be talking about whether or not her tenure at Lucasfilm may be over. Now, if you've been around for a while, then you've probably already heard this God knows how many times at this point. Kathleen Kennedy's time at Lucasfilm is over, and then either her contract gets renewed or it doesn't happen or whatever. But lately, we have been getting these reports again, or more specifically, rumors. But it seems like there might be some things that might lead to confirming whether or not these rumors may actually be true or not. So we're going to be taking a look at this. Specifically, we're going to be looking at this article from Pirates and Princesses, and we're going to be taking a look at what WDW Pro has said, and we're going to decide whether or not there's any weight to these rumors or not. So let's go ahead and just take a look at the article and not waste any more of your time. Excuse me. Quietly, things have been shifting at Lucasfilm and the Walt Disney Company. One might say the mood is different in the house that George Lucas has built. It started with a dramatic cleanup of social media behavior by Lucasfilm employees. Then, despite the Herculean efforts it would take to get Indiana Jones 5 into production, everything was thrown at making the movie a reality. The head of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, began scheduling appearances at the production of the movie along with her husband Frank Marshall in a way that isn't often seen for executive producers. Next, the bad news for Star Wars and Disney Plus began subtly leaking from Disney, almost certainly in a soft, coordinated manner. Now, I do just want to talk about this part specifically where they're talking about the cleanup of social media behavior by Lucasfilm employees. Now, in case you don't know, or if you haven't been paying attention, basically, if you guys remember, one of the things that pissed off a lot of people, especially fans of Star Wars, was how the people in charge of Star Wars, or people who are working over Lucasfilm, have been treating the fans. They haven't liked the fact that they have been openly attacking fans, basically calling them a bunch of a bunch of phobes. However, something interesting that has happened, and that is the fact that for a while now we haven't really been seeing this for a while. I think it's been a few weeks now. Like the social media presence of Lucasfilm or Star Wars has been quiet. Like right now, if you head over to the Star Wars Twitter account or Instagram or whatever social media platform they're using now, it's all just promotion for whatever projects they're working on. Like now, if you go over to the Star Wars Twitter account, it's just promotions for the Bad Batch, which makes sense because it's their latest show and they want to promote it. That makes sense. But again, you don't see anything from any Lucasfilm employees going out there and attacking, fans. Now, some people might bring up, well, what about Freddie Prinze Jr. and what he did? Here's the thing. I don't consider Freddie Prinze a Lucasfilm employee. Remember, he is a voice actor. He was hired to do a job, and that's it. He isn't technically a Lucasfilm employee. He doesn't work for them exclusively. So just remember that. Is Indy the swan song for Miss Kennedy? Kennedy is in the final year of her contract. Now, I think this means that what they're talking about is, if you were to look it up, I think her contract is supposed to be up on October. So we have until then to see whether or not there's any truth to this or not. So we'll have to wait and see. Kennedy is in the final year of her contract with the Walt Disney Company for presiding over the studio largely about Star Wars. Her tenure has been a bumpy one. While her immediate box office success with The Force Awakens and Rogue One was monumental, things quickly devolved afterwards from a financial position. Whereas other Disney properties grew in popularity and economic importance, Star Wars began to diminish with the release of The Last Jedi. It was a steady drop until The Mandalorian. And in case you remember, that's when a lot of fans started to come back because a lot of people really liked The Mandalorian. And it was interesting because whenever people had criticisms, it had nothing to do with the usual criticisms that people had with the Star Wars products. It had to do with the narrative, which is how it should be. If you've been following Star Wars, you probably read articles like the one above. You know that there are people who defend Kathleen Kennedy and those who despise how she's performed. But the tenuous relationship she's had with Disney was ultimately frayed when Favreau demonstrated just how popular Star Wars can still be with The Mandalorian, and yet that was somewhat squandered with the mishandling of Gina Carano. And by the way, that was the last straw for a lot of people. Like once that happened, that's when people said, you know what, screw you, that's it, I'm out, I'm done. Even if they clean up their act, it doesn't matter because I want nothing to do with this company anymore. And honestly, I can't blame them. Whatever your opinion of the actress, the way in which she was terminated from the company was a public relations nightmare. Now, however, things are beginning to change behind the scenes, and I think this is actually from an article from another website. Yeah, it's from Variety. Of these heads, Feige is seen as the most essential executive, having proved his mettle with the massive success of the MCU, although I don't think that's going to last for long considering what's coming up, and streaming shows like WandaVision. After it was announced in 2019 that Feige would produce a, quote, Star Wars movie, there were rumors that he might assume more control at Lucasfilm. However, insiders say that Feige is fully committed with his Marvel duties and has no ambition to lead excuse me, Lucasfilm or take more of a role. In the above quote from a Variety article by Brent Lang and Matt Donnelly, you'll notice the insiders they've spoken with are purposefully throwing Kathleen Kennedy as well as Pixar leaders under the proverbial bus. Kevin Feige, head of Marvel, is the real essential executive, they say, and while they heap praise on other Disney executives throughout their expose, Kennedy is essentially forgotten other than this throwaway mention. Her only reason for being included in the story is to say that Feige could have her job except he doesn't want it. And this is linked to, this is the Variety quote, this is from Twitter. That lines up with what we've heard for the past few years. We've reported for the past year that Disney would likely be amicable to some easy way to part with Mrs. Kennedy. But what's telling is that Variety is now putting that information out into the public sphere from their position as a trade publication. And make no mistake, Disney uses outlets like Variety to tip the industry as to where they'd like to go. If you've listened to the second quarter earnings report, yeah, I heard about this. In fact, I even almost did a video about this, but I just decided against it. Held by Disney last week, you may have noticed that they weren't thrilled with Disney Plus growth in mature markets. What are mature markets? Well, they're essentially places where Disney Plus has been launched longer than brand new geographical locations. Given that Disney Plus is still a very new service, it's kind of fun to listen to Disney refer to mature markets. The biggest mature market is the United States, and that's also the place where Star Wars has by far the most significance. So why do they call the United States a mature market? The answer is because growth slowed to such an extent in the second quarter that they seem to be readjusting their expectations for the increase in subscribers. Privately, sources say that Disney knows they have a Star Wars problem. My only question is, how the hell didn't they figure this out 4 years ago? Subscribers began either slowing down or dropping after the Gina Carano situation. No shit. The goodwill that was earned back for Star Wars via the Jon Favreau universe of Star Wars storytelling was decimated by a mismanaged Lucasfilm. Perhaps worse, the following release of the High Republic line of Star Wars fiction was an utter fail. Yeah, it was pretty much dead on arrival. No one wanted anything to do with that crap. And then, of course, you had the fucking Rock. Consider the recent Star Wars material other than The Mandalorian, Star Wars Resistance, which, by the way, I tried to watch a couple of episodes, and my god, is it fucking awful. Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures was mocked vociferously. The High Republic is perhaps the worst ever received content since a certain holiday special. The Bad Batch has launched to lackluster excitement. Is there any buzz? And here's the thing, from what I heard, The Bad Batch isn't a bad show. But the thing is, like I said, after their treatment of the fans, most of them are just gone. Like, no one really cares what it is. Even if the show is good, people just are done with Disney. They're done. They want nothing to do with that company. If there's one thing that will get people like Bob Chapek to make big decisions quickly, it's declining stock prices. And there's no better way to drive down Disney stock at the moment than to fail on delivering subscriber increasing Disney Plus content. Does all of this mean that Kathleen Kennedy is most assuredly exiting the role she's held since before Disney purchased Lucasfilm? Not necessarily. We could see Kennedy getting a 1-year limited extension. Oh, dude, they better not. They better not. People, even if it's just 1 year, no, people will not take it. People want her gone. They want her gone now. They wanted her gone 4 years ago. It's also possible that she could be bumped to a legacy role, but financially it no longer seems feasible for Disney to keep her on board, and her latest endeavor continues a pattern of incompetency. We're now hearing from sources and from public reports that Indiana Jones 5 is again running behind schedule, whereas the movie was supposed to begin shooting this spring. We're now finding out that the movie is still finding casting holes. Wait, casting holes or casting roles? Like, do they mean they haven't cast the movie yet? Jesus fucking Christ. When was this movie announced again? Like, I remember this was announced a long time ago and they still haven't even cast the movie. Jesus. The movie is now reportedly scheduled to not shoot with Harrison Ford until August at the earliest, and may actually shoot after Guardians of the Galaxy 3 begins. Considering one injury to Ford could end the entire movie for good, The effort and money being thrown at the film is quite the gamble, and if Indiana Jones 5 can't make it to theaters by its latest release date of July 29, 2022, you could be potentially be looking at a release date where Harrison Ford is closer to 81 years old. I mean, we're rooting for him, but this is becoming quite the unprecedented action film. Dude, just cancel it. Just don't make the movie. Just don't make it. Can you imagine an octogenarian cracking a whip in a summer blockbuster? More power to Harrison Ford if he can pull it off. The man is a legend after all, and people are staying healthy longer, I suppose. But all of this is to say that Indiana Jones 5 has been a mess to make, and they've delayed it to the point at the very edge of impossibility. That's sort of been Kathleen Kennedy's ride at Lucasfilm for better or worse. While she's managed to stay afloat this long, don't be surprised if the, quote, Force's female executive is finally on her way out, and perhaps a Hail Mary Indiana Jones 5 film that actually turns out well for everyone involved would be just the way for her to ride off into the sunset. That would certainly explain the amount of resources going into such a high-risk film attempt. And that's the story. Let us know what you think in the comments below and who you would like to see as a replacement if she does in fact leave the studio this year or the next. Well, look, I don't know who I would like to see her replaced, but look, I just want her gone. I just want her gone. Because look, well, actually, just scratch that. I don't know if I want her gone. Here's the thing. I don't think I care at this point. Like, I think I've reached the point of just complete apathy when it comes to Star Wars. And if they really want me back, if they want a lot of people who have given up on Star Wars to come back, they need to make some changes. For example, they need to tell people again, no more attacking fans. Like, that's done. The second I see you pull any of that shit, you're gone. You're out. And Kathleen Kennedy has to go. If you want to wait until her contract expires, fine, whatever. But after it does, she has to go. And no, none of that 1 year limited extension. No, none of that. That has to go. Because if she stays even a minute longer than she's supposed to be, that's it. Like, that's the death knell for a lot of people. Okay, it really will be over for a lot of people, and you will never get them back. Show them that you are serious about this. Kathleen Kennedy has to go. Tell people to stop attacking fans, and just clean up your act. It's not going to happen immediately, but if you really want fans back, you have to commit to this. Okay, commit to cleaning up your act. Commit to telling fans that we have changed. Don't just tell us, show us. Show us that you have changed. Show us that you actually care about fans, and that you will treat Star Wars with even a modicum of respect. Now, look, whether I think this is happening or not, I don't know. Again, I'm not working there, so I can't say for sure yes or no. All I can give you is an educated guess. And the thing is, based on what WDW Pro presented in this article, I can see why people would think it, and it is kind of telling that they would have this. What is it? That they would have this report, and not even mention Kathleen Kennedy at all and what she did at Lucasfilm. Because again, think about it. One of the things that a lot of the Kathleen Kennedy defenders have said is that, well, look, her movies made $1 billion each. Oh, yes, but you have to also see the decrease, because that's not the full story. You're not giving us the full picture, or you're refusing to look at the full picture. The Force Awakens made over $2 billion. The Last Jedi made a little over $1.3 billion. That's at least half of what The Force Awakens made. And then half of what The Force Awakens made. And then you go to Rise of Skywalker, and it barely, and I know a lot of people say, well, $1 billion, yes, but think about it. It barely crossed $1 billion. This is a Star Wars movie. It should have made $2 billion easy. But the fact that it barely crossed $1 billion, and the fact that you take a movie like Joker, which, remember, didn't open in China, and that movie made more than Rise of Skywalker. Like, that tells you everything. Joker, a movie that was made on, what was it, like $60 million or something, and that made its money back and more without even a China release, and yet Star Wars was Rise of Skywalker was released in every market possible, including China, and yet it still barely crossed the 1 billion mark. Like, that again shows you that this isn't good. This is not good. Whenever there's when companies like have to look at the decrease in the box office as opposed to just how much money each movie made, and even then, I want you to think about this. Rise of Skywalker, how much money did they spend on? And this is something that a lot of people don't think about. They think that, well, okay, so each movie made $1 billion, right? So Force Awakens over $2 billion, Last Jedi over 1.3 billion, Rise of Skywalker over 1 billion, right? So combine all of that, you have a little over $4 billion. Now a lot of people might think, well, there you go, they made their money back for how much they spent on Lucasfilm when they bought it from George Lucas. They gave him, I think, $4.5 billion. Even if they made $4.3 billion, even then, like, still that's a lot of money, right? No. In Hollywood, in order to make your money back, or I think just in business, in order to make back the money you made on investment, you have to triple the amount of money you invested. So Disney paid $4.5 billion for Lucasfilm when they bought it from George Lucas, right? They needed to make triple that in order to make their money back. They needed at least $120 billion, at least. If I have my wait, they spent 4.5 billion. Yeah, at least at least not 120 billion. No, 12 billion. They needed to make at least that much in order to make their money back. But they didn't. They made that for, okay, well, what about everything else? Because again, a lot of people don't realize that there's the money that a movie makes, the company doesn't pocket all of that. Like, a lot of it goes to paying their stars, paying their their agents. Basically, there's a lot of people they still have to pay, and then whatever's left, that's what the company makes. So even if a movie makes, let's say Force Awakens made $2.5 billion, Disney doesn't keep the 2.5. A lot of it goes to paying other people who were involved in making the movie, and then whatever's left, that's what Disney pockets. So even then, they didn't technically make $4 billion. You got to remember that. Like this, a lot of people don't think about the actual business side of this. And yeah, I know the business side of it is kind of boring. No one's really interested, but you have to look at it if you're going to say whether or not Disney was successful, because they weren't. And yeah, all of this was happening under Kathleen Kennedy's nose. And the thing is if Disney needs to realize that, look, Kathleen Kennedy, whatever you think of her, she hasn't done a good job in her tenure as the Lucasfilm head. She needs to go. And especially when you consider when Lucasfilm was under her, when she was the head of Lucasfilm, take the movie and the monetary side out of it, the fact that she stood by and just let people who were working for her go out there and attack fans, and the fact that she didn't stop it, that alone tells you that, yeah, it's her time to go. Because those actions are what caused people to leave. Because look, people can handle bad movies. They can handle bad movies. But it was the actions of the Lucasfilm staff that caused a lot of people to leave. That's something you have to take into consideration, and that happened under Kathleen Kennedy's under her rule. That happened under her lead, and that's why she has to go, because you have to bring in someone who is going to look at that and say, yeah, that can't happen anymore. Okay, so just to let you know, if you try this, you're gone. Like, zero tolerance for that crap. No more. So anyway, I'm going to end this video right here, guys. I know this was a bit of a long video. I do apologize, but I had a lot of thoughts that I kind of wanted to get out. If you stayed up until this point, thank you so much for watching or listening. Please remember to stay safe and take care of yourself. Make sure to do all the YouTube stuff, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And I hope to see you guys for the next one. Bye for now.